I'm going to let you hear something you were never meant to hear, because once you understand it, you can't go back. The kind of truth that doesn't just sting, it brands you. Picture a courtroom, so quiet you can hear the building breathe. Cold air, old wood, fluorescent lights that make everyone look a little dead. And then a laugh cuts through it, sharp and careless, like someone stepping on glass just to prove they can. The laugh belongs to the woman in the red dress, not the wife, the mistress, sitting like she owns the room, wearing confidence like a weapon, staring at a woman who is 8 months pregnant and trying not to fall apart. Here's what most men never notice about places like this. A courtroom isn't just a room. It's a machine. It is designed to turn a human life into paper and then to decide what that paper is worth. And if you don't know how that machine works, you don't get justice. You get processed. That's the first dark truth. The second is worse. The people who learn the machine can use it like a leash. Not with fists, with forms, with allegations, with the right story told at the right time, through the right mouth. The husband sits there like a board executive at a meeting he already controls. He doesn't look at his pregnant wife. He scrolls his phone. His lawyer stands ready, polished, confident, with that smooth voice that can turn lies into concerns. And the mistress leans in close, speaking loud enough for the wife to hear, because humiliation is part of the ritual. Break the spirit first, then take the money, then take the child, then take the identity. That is psychological control, done in public, under fluorescent lights, with a seal on the wall so everyone calls it law. But arrogance has a weakness. It makes predators sloppy. It makes them perform. It makes them laugh at the very moment they should be hiding. And in that laugh, the judge finally looks up, not with sympathy, with focus, like someone who has seen this pattern before and is deciding whether to allow it to continue. This story is about one question, one clean, simple question, the kind that doesn't sound like a weapon until it hits bone. And if you've ever felt like the world is rigged, stay close, because what you're about to see isn't just drama. It's a blueprint. Watch the hallway again, because the real trial starts before anyone says, "All rise." Two women stand 10 feet apart, and the distance is not physical, it's engineered. The pregnant wife is dressed for survival. Flat shoes, loose fabric, hair pulled back because her body is doing the hardest work on earth, and she's running on fear and vitamins and whatever pride she has left. The mistress is dressed for conquest. Red dress like a warning sign, heels like punctuation, jewelry that catches light the way a blade does. And the husband stands between them, not as a man, but as a gate. He's the gate to money, to safety, to housing, to the future. That's the first control system. Make one human being the gate to another human being's life, then call it marriage, call it family, call it normal. Ancient kings did it with land. Old empires did it with food. Modern predators do it with bank accounts and lawyers. He didn't just cheat. He reorganized reality. He froze the joint accounts, cut the cards, filed first, and then made the most important move in the whole play. He named her unstable. Do you understand what that word is in a courtroom? It's not an insult. It's a spell. It's the same spell they used on women in villages when they wanted their property, their silence, their obedience. Back then they called it witch, hysteric, possessed. Today they call it unfit, erratic, alcoholic. Different century, same mechanism. Once the label sticks, everything she does becomes evidence. If she cries, she's unstable. If she's calm, she's manipulative. If she fights, she's aggressive. If she stays quiet, she's guilty. Heads I win, tails you lose. That's psychological warfare, wrapped in procedure. And here's the part most men miss, because we're trained to respect institutions like they're clean. The system rewards the better storyteller, not the better soul. A shark attorney can take a lie, dress it in legal language, and feed it to a judge like it's fact. Affidavits, photos, whisper networks, people you've never met swearing they saw something. You can be innocent and still drown if you don't control the narrative. That's why the mistress laughs. She thinks the machine is already paid for. She thinks the judge is just another cog. But the wife has a secret in her bag. Not hope, not prayer. Proof. Cold, hard, transferable proof. Because when you're dealing with predators, morality is a bedtime story. Evidence is the only god they fear. And the judge, if she's the real kind, doesn't fear their money. She fears only one thing, being played in her own courtroom. When the doors close behind you in a courtroom, the world outside stops existing, and that is not an accident. That's the point. Old empires understood this. Take a man off the street, put him under a roof with rules he didn't write, surround him with symbols, robes, seals, flags, and you can make him accept almost anything as official. That is how control becomes normal. So when Sarah steps into that room, swollen feet on hard floor, hand on her belly like she's guarding the last good thing left, she's not just walking into a divorce hearing. She's walking into a ritual designed to decide who gets believed and who gets erased. Mark's lawyer moves first, because predators always move first. He doesn't start with facts. He starts with a story. He paints Mark as a builder, an empire man, a legacy man, and then he turns Sarah into a parasite with one sentence. Paycheck. That word isn't meant for the judge. It's meant for the air. It's meant to infect the room, so even the clerk hears it and thinks, maybe she's just here for money. That's the oldest trick in dark history. Attack motive, not truth. When inquisitors couldn't prove a man was guilty, they proved he had something to gain. When tyrants couldn't prove rebellion, they proved disloyalty. Same play, different costumes. Then the knife goes in deeper. Paternity, alcohol, unfit mother. These aren't accusations, they're cages. If Mark can make the court doubt the baby is his, he can dodge duty. If he can paint her as a drunk, he can take custody. It's not just cruelty, it's math. And when a mistress laughs at the mention of a child's legitimacy, that laugh is a signal. She's not laughing because it's funny. She's laughing because she thinks the machine is already owned. But watch the judge. Judge Sterling isn't reacting like the crowd. She's collecting patterns. She sees the lawyer's pacing, the stage size, the planned humiliation. She sees the mistress dressed like a trophy sitting where a witness should not be performing. And when the lawyer slides evidence onto the bench, photos of a woman at bars, Sterling does something most people don't do anymore. She looks closely. Dates, angles, details. Because power hides in details, and lies always rush past them. Sarah's heart drops when her own lawyer gets shut down for speculation. That's another part of the machine. If you can't present proof in the exact approved shape, the truth is treated like noise. And right there, you feel the trap closing, until the judge's eyes narrow, not with emotion, but with recognition, like she's just smelled smoke and realized the fires inside the walls. Now the mistress takes the stand, and this is where most men misunderstand evil. Evil doesn't always enter a room snarling. Sometimes it enters smiling, swearing an oath, and speaking softly into a microphone like it's your friend. Chloe sits down, smooths her red dress, and suddenly she isn't a homewrecker anymore. She's a professional, a partner, a woman who just wants to support Mark. That's how institutional manipulation works. You don't fight the system. You wear the right mask and let the system fight for you. Her voice turns sweet, measured, practiced. She says they met through business. She says she runs a consulting firm. She says Mark was lonely at home, that Sarah was cold, aggressive, unstable. And as she says it, she keeps glancing at the judge the way a performer checks the crowd. She wants the room to crown her as the replacement, not just for the wife, but for the role of credible woman. That's the psychological theft underneath the legal theft. Take the husband, take the money, take the future, and then take the right to be believed. And watch what the husband does while his mistress lies for him. He stays still. He lets her take the risk. That's another old pattern, older than Wall Street, older than Rome. Powerful men outsource danger. They don't swing the sword. They hire the sword. They don't tell lies. They pay someone else to tell it. Then act shocked when the lie bleeds out on the floor. If you ever want to see a man's true character, don't watch how he speaks. Watch what he's willing to let others do for him. Sarah's lawyer tries to fight back, but the system is not built for the tired and the broke. He asks about the consulting firm and the money trail, and the other lawyer shouts relevance, because relevance is a gate too. Courts don't just decide truth. They decide what truth is allowed to exist in the room. And for a moment, it looks like the gate holds. The judge sustains objections. The mistress smirks. The husband exhales like a man who thinks the lock is back on the cage. But then the judge pauses on something small. Jewelry. A necklace. The kind of detail arrogant people forget because they think appearances are armor, not evidence. Judge Sterling doesn't react like a spectator. She reacts like a hunter. Because she's seen this before, people who steal lives always leave trophies behind. And trophies have serial numbers, even when they glitter. Judge Sterling doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't have to. She tells Chloe to sit back down, and the room obeys like it remembers an older law. This is what real authority looks like. Calm, slow, unavoidable. Chloe rolls her eyes, because she thinks authority is a costume you can buy. Sterling leans forward and starts with the boring parts, the parts liars hate. Dates, filings, numbers. You build a bankrupt company $1.2 million, she says, and you can feel Mark's confidence leak out through the seams of his suit. Because here's the forbidden mechanism. Institutions aren't fooled by emotion. They're fooled by paperwork. So Sterling doesn't argue with the story. She attacks the paper trail, the only thing the machine respects. She reminds the court that Mark filed bankruptcy, claimed zero liquidity, claimed he couldn't pay employees, couldn't pay support. Then she turns back to Chloe like a blade turning in a wound. If the company was broken, where did the money come from? Chloe stutters, looks at Mark for a lifeline, and Mark gives her nothing. That's how conspiracies end, not with a confession, but with silence at the wrong moment. Sterling warns her about perjury, not like a threat, like a gate closing. And now I'm going to do something with you, because this is the halfway point, and if you're still here, you're not watching for entertainment anymore. You're training your instincts. In the comments, write this symbolic phrase twice, exactly. The veil breaks, the veil breaks. Do it, and you'll remember what it felt like when the room turned. Sterling lifts a printout. Grainy. Cheap ink. An Instagram photo. 2 years old. Chloe is wearing the same necklace she swore she bought 3 months ago. That's the question that ends it. Did you lie? Did he lie? Or did you both conspire to hide assets and defraud the court? Notice the genius. She gives 3 doors, and all 3 lead to prison. Chloe's face goes hollow. The red dress suddenly looks like a warning label. Mark slams his hand down, calls it a setup, but the judge doesn't flinch. Because the oldest corruption is not the mistress. It's the belief that money can rewrite reality. And in this room, for once, it can't. Remember this. The system protects predators until a detail pierces the script. Learn details, and you stop being prey today. Chloe's mouth opens and closes, and for the first time she looked her age. A kid who borrowed power and thought it was hers. Mark's eyes are begging her to stay quiet, but the judge has already done the one thing predators cannot survive. She has cut the room away from their script. Answer, she says, and the word lands like a gavel inside Chloe's chest. Chloe breaks, not with dignity, not with strategy, but with panic. He gave it to me, she blurts, and the lie collapses into a confession. 2 years ago, before the business, before love, she admits he coached her, fed her lines, told her to say she bought it, told her to say everything. And right there you see the hidden agenda that sits behind so many smiles. It was never about romance. It was about laundering a life. Because money is not just currency. In the wrong hands, it's a hypnotic tool. It tells people they can rewrite facts, buy witnesses, bend calendars, erase mothers. Mark didn't just move funds. He tried to move reality itself. The same way priests once moved guilt onto a scapegoat and called it holy. Same mechanism, updated hardware, shell company, fake invoices, consulting, a soft name for a hard crime. And when Chloe says the word Cayman, the temperature in the room drops. Offshore isn't just geography. Offshore is a philosophy. Take the truth where the law can't reach it. Hide it behind water, paperwork, and distance, and then act broke in public while you feast in private. The judge doesn't celebrate. She tightens the net. She asks about disclosures, about missing accounts, about the bankruptcy filing that claimed there was nothing left. That's the part most men need to hear. Bankruptcy isn't always failure. Sometimes it's camouflage, a legal fog machine. Make creditors choke, make spouses panic, make judges rush, then slip the real assets into a dark pocket nobody checks. Until someone checks. Sarah is shaking, but she isn't defeated anymore. She's watching a door open that she thought was welded shut. And you should feel it too, the moment the machine hesitates. The moment a system built to process people is forced to face a person. Because now, in open court, The mistress has said the quiet part out loud. And once it's said out loud, it stops being a rumor. It becomes a record. Here's where the machine shows you its teeth. Because once crimes surface in open court, everyone's first instinct is to pretend they didn't hear it. The lawyers want distance. The clerk wants routine. The bailiff wants calm. Even good people want the room to go back to normal, because normal feels safe. But Judge Sterling doesn't let it. She turns her head toward Mark, and you can see it in his face. He realizes the game has shifted from divorce to exposure. His expensive lawyer starts packing, not because he suddenly grew a conscience, but because institutions have one rule above all others: protect the institution. The moment a case threatens to stain the court itself, everyone scrambles to step away from the fire. Mark tries the oldest move in the Predator handbook. It's out of context. It's a joke. You're misunderstanding. That's gaslighting, but upgraded, fitted for a courtroom. Not aimed at one person, aimed at the entire record. He's trying to flood the room with doubt so the truth can't get a clean shape. Because truth, if you let it stand still, becomes a weapon. And then Sarah reaches in her bag and touches the cold USB drive like it's a rosary. Except it's not faith she's holding. It's leverage. This is the part they never teach you. When power attacks you, it doesn't fear your anger. It fears your documentation. Every tyrant in history burned books for a reason. Every corrupt system thrives on missing records. Suppressed truth isn't always locked in vaults. Sometimes it's just sitting in a drawer, waiting for someone brave enough to bring it into the light where it can breathe. Sterling asks for it. And when the screen flickers on, you can feel the whole room lean forward like one body. The video isn't cinematic. It's worse. It's casual. A car cabin. A date stamp. Mark's voice, relaxed, joking about throwing his pregnant wife into poverty like it's a weekend project. Chloe laughing, talking about custody like it's a loophole, talking about hiding money like it's a clever hack. You hear it, and something primitive wakes up in you, because you're hearing the private language of people who believe other humans are disposable. That's the forbidden layer. Not the affair, not the money, the mindset, the belief that if you can control the story, you can control the outcome, and if you can control the outcome, you can control the person. When the video cuts to black, the silence is no longer tense. It's disgusting. Sterling tells the bailiff to lock the doors. No one leaves. Because now this isn't a divorce. It's a confession with witnesses. The deputies arrive, and the whole room changes shape, because now the system has to admit what it tries to hide. It has teeth. Steel cuffs. Locked doors. The state stepped forward like a shadow that suddenly had hands. Chloe starts crying that she didn't mean it, that Mark made her. And Mark just sits there watching his empire burn, not because he's sorry, but because for the first time he can't purchase the next sentence. This is the moment you need to understand if you want real mastery. Predators don't fear morals. They fear loss of control. The second the judge calls the district attorney, Mark's face does not show grief. It shows calculation failing. It shows a man realizing the script is gone and there is nothing left but consequences. And right then, the body makes its own ruling. Sarah doubles over. Her hand goes to her stomach. Her voice breaks. "My water," she gasps, and the phrase hits the room like a gunshot because it drags everyone back to reality. All their paperwork, all their lies, all their strategy, and the oldest truth on earth still wins. Life arrives when it arrives. You want to talk about suppressed truths and hidden control? Here's one they never say out loud. Stress is a weapon. Financial abuse is a weapon. Public humiliation is a weapon. And sometimes the body pays the bill before the court ever does. Chaos spreads, but it's a revealing chaos. The lawyers drop their folders. The bailiff forgets his posture. The mistress forgets her performance. Even the judge steps down from the bench, because the bench is a symbol, and symbols don't stop bleeding. Sterling kneels beside Sarah, robe on the floor, hand steady, voice sharp, commanding the room like a battlefield medic. She orders the doors locked, not to trap Sarah, but to trap the predators, to keep the evidence inside, to keep the witnesses inside, to keep reality from being negotiated away in the hallway. Mark tries to step forward, saying her name like he still owns it, like a brand stamped on livestock, and Sterling blocks him with her body. That's the institutional flip you almost never see. Authority used to protect the weak instead of protecting the polished. Chloe screams about her ruined life, her ruined dress, her ruined future, and you finally see what she really is: empty, a vessel for someone else's greed. Deputies drag them back, and Sarah's scream cuts through everything, raw and animal, the sound of a woman forcing truth into the world with her own blood. Remember this, because it matters. When control systems collapse, they don't collapse quietly. They collapse around a birth. The baby comes fast, too fast, like the universe is trying to end this chapter before the lies can regroup. Sterling calls out commands like she's done it 100 times, but you can hear the edge in her voice. This is not a story anymore. This is risk. Sarah is trembling, sweat on her forehead, fingers clawing at the carpet because her body is doing what courts can't do, delivering a verdict in flesh. She cries that she's too weak, that she hasn't eaten, that she's tired. And I want you to hold on to that word, tired, because it's the word that keeps good people trapped. Predators count on it. They count on you being too tired to fight, too tired to document, too tired to go to the hearing, too tired to look for the detail that breaks the spell. Sterling leans in close and tells her something men should never forget. Strength isn't a mood. It's a decision you make when you don't have strength left. Sarah listens, breathes, and then pushes like she's pushing her whole stolen life out of her body. And then the sound changes. A wet cough, a thin cry, and suddenly the room that was built for punishment becomes a room that holds life. The baby is small, but breathing, fighting. Sterling wraps him up with whatever cloth she can find, lays him on Sarah's chest, and Sarah's face shifts. The grief drains out. Relief comes in like air after drowning. She whispers to him, and you can feel the entire room, even the hard men with badges, go quiet in a different way. This is the part institutional systems can never fully control: the human bond. Paper can transfer property. Paper can assign custody. Paper can make a man primary parent. But paper cannot replicate a mother's heartbeat under a newborn's cheek. Mark sees it and tries to reclaim it. That entitlement rises in him like a reflex. He says the baby looks like him. He says, "My son," like the word "my" is a deed. Sterling stands up, wipes her hands, and you watch her transform back into the judge, not because she loves power, but because power is needed right now. She tells the deputy to bring Mark forward just close enough to understand the loss. Mark thinks the baby is his bargaining chip. He thinks fatherhood will soften the room, buy him leniency, reopen the script. Sterling points at the child and tells him to memorize that face because it will be the last time he sees it outside a photograph. And in that sentence, you hear something ancient, something older than modern law. Judgment. Not legal. Moral. A line drawn in the sand that says you don't get to destroy a family and then demand access to its innocence. Mark starts pleading, and it's almost convincing if you don't know the pattern. He says he was stressed. He says he didn't mean it. He says he can fix it. That's the final manipulation stage. After domination fails, offer repair as a way to regain access. The words sound soft, but the goal is hard. Get close again. Touch the lever again. Put a hand back on the wheel. Sterling doesn't argue with him. She doesn't debate feelings. She names reality. Intent is proven by action. In a world drowned in excuses, that sentence is a weapon. Then she makes the deepest cut. She tells him he isn't a father, he's a sperm donor. Because a father protects, a father provides. A father doesn't starve a pregnant woman and then pose for sympathy when the room turns on him. That's not just a line for a viral clip. That's a truth hidden in plain sight. And men in this country are starving for it because the culture sells comfort when it should sell standards. Deputies drag Mark and Chloe out. The red dress that looked like victory in the hallway now looks like evidence. The Rolex that looked like dominance now looks like a timer counting down years. The doors swing shut with a heavy final sound, and for the first time the room feels clean. Not happy, clean, like poison finally left the bloodstream. Outside the courthouse, life continues like it didn't just witness a war. Cars move, people drink coffee. The sky does whatever it was going to do anyway. That's another dark truth. The world doesn't stop when your life collapses. So you have to become the man who can stand back up inside a moving world. Sarah is lifted onto a gurney, baby against her, and she looks smaller than ever and stronger than ever at the same time. Sterling tells her not to worry about fees, tells her the court will handle the crimes, tells her to focus on keeping that boy alive. And when Sarah squeezes the judge's hand, you realize what this story really was. Not revenge, not karma, not courtroom drama. It was a demonstration of how control breaks. A mistress mocked a pregnant wife because she believed institutions were props. A husband tried to erase a woman because he believed money was magic. They were wrong. One question ended it, because that question forced a liar to choose between lies, and every option was a confession. That's the lesson I'm leaving you with, man to man. The world is full of systems that can be used to cage you, but those systems have weak points. Details, records, dates, proof. The moment you stop living on vibes and start living on evidence, you become dangerous to anyone who relies on darkness.